Just get some happens.
Okay, welcome everybody. For those who are in the room, if you wish to go to the bathroom, it's down there, isn't it, Caroline?
Yes.
It's down there, but it is through the doors, so you will not be able to get back in unless you take that path which is on the corner of the table there with you. If you don't, say goodbye as you're going, because we might have to collect you at the end of the meeting. So there you are. Welcome everybody to this afternoon's meeting of Western Gateway Subnational Transport Board. Welcome to everyone online. If we could just do some very, very brief introductions, that is a name and your authority or organisation, please, just for the benefit of anyone who hasn't been before or is new with us. Could I start with people online? I think Hannah at the top there.
Hello, I'm Councillor Hannah Young from North Somerset Council.
Thank you. Louise?
Hi everyone, I'm Louise McBride from the West of England Combined Authority.
Thank you. Michaela?
Hi, Michaela Bushell, some Sphere Marketing and Communications for Western Gateway.
Thank you. Anybody else? Jessica?
I'm here.
Jessica, you're there. Oh, I see, you're running the meeting. Right, okay. In that case, can I assume, Jessica, that is everybody who's that? Jamie. Oh, there's Jamie. Oh, Jamie. Hi, Jamie from Network Rail. Hello.
Hello, yeah. Jamie Rockhill, I'm the lead strategic planner for the Wessex route, and you've also got Matt on the line as well.
Lovely. Okay, we've got two people from Network Rail today. That's excellent. Thank you very much. And
I'll just very briefly introduce myself. Hi, thanks, Jamie. Matt Haywood, Network Rail, Western route.
Oh, hi, Matt. Sorry, we can't always see everybody on the screen depending on what numbers there are. But and here in the room we have.
Councillor Alexander, you've got Pam Turton and Manda Rigby from Bath and North East Somerset online as well.
Okay, Manda, you've just appeared now. You've spoken. So yes.
Hi, Adam Crowther as well from Bristol.
Adam's there from Bristol. Great. Is there any way, Jess, that we can actually see all the people rather than seeing the agenda and the people who are speaking?
Click on those dots. Does it give you a list?
I can't see that on my screen.
We'll work on that, folks.
Yeah, it's quite a bit tricky.
Anyway, meanwhile, we'll introduce folks in the room. David, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm David Gray. I'm the Cabinet Member responsible for Environment and Planning at Gloucestershire County Council.
Thank you. James?
I'm James White. I'm Technical Lead for the Western Gateway.
Thank you.
Councillor Vicky Slade, Leader of BCP Council.
Gillian Cochran, BCP Council.
Alice Darley, National Highways.
Councillor Caroline Thomas, Wiltshire Council, Cabinet Member responsible for Highways and Transport.
I'm Councillor Samara Ray, also Wiltshire Council, fully involved in for sustainable transport and climate change.
Louise Watford, Sphere Marketing, Comms Western Gateway.
Thank you. The public in the public gallery.
David Redwell, I think some people know. I sat on most of the bus service advisory boards and panels, and I know Rick do a lot of work with David.
I think this is the first time we've actually had a public gallery, is it not?
Well, I've been online, but never.
I know, but it's a special occasion for us. That doesn't mean you can speak all the time, though.
I do intend to.
No, it doesn't. Okay. And next, please.
Oilstone, Gloucestershire County Council.
Great.
Chris Wilmore, Cabinet Member, South Gloucestershire.
Andrew White, South Gloucestershire Council also.
Lynn Ivy from Western Gateway.
Anna Fountain, also Western Gateway.
Jess Holroyd, Western Gateway.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And I think we've got more people on the screen now, so there's more chance that we can hear you. You'll probably have to shout if you wish to speak. So I'm Don Alexander, so I'm Cabinet Member for Transport in Bristol, but I am Chair. This is my last meeting as Chair. And our first item on the agenda, minutes and actions from the previous meeting. James, do you want to go through the actions, please, from the board meeting, which we held on a very cold day on the 6th of December?
Indeed. But there were a number of actions. We need to amend the minutes of the previous meeting. That was done. Then there was an action for the Department for Transport. There were 3 separate sub-actions there around the plan for drivers, Westerly Junction, and background evidence for level 4 devolution. David Glynus unfortunately can't join us today. We are hoping that Ross Burton from Department for Transport will be joining. I don't think he's on at the moment, so that action is still open. At the last board meeting, Matt from Network Rail sent in an update that was then circulated, and if there was any questions, they would be sent to Matt. But I don't think we had any questions in based on Matt's statement. Oh, was that a hand up?
The meeting is a message from Louise. I think what she raised in the pre-meeting.
Oh,
right. Did you get the message yet?
Yeah, she just was
Okay.
There was an action for Alice Darley from National Highways to circulate the RIS-free consultation data when available. Alice, is that still?
DFT are going to be publishing their consultation report with their draft RIS. We're still waiting for publication.
Next action was to invite Jamie Rockhill from Network Rail to future meetings. I'm very pleased to have Jamie here.
In action.
So that's done. Confirm the date of the next board meeting. That was confirmed for today, and also the next one in June. An action to set up supplementary meetings for the Strategic Transport Plan Project Board. They've all been undertaken. And then the draft outline business plan template. This was the business plan summary sheet, which we were required as an STB to submit to the Department for Transport at the end of December. And delegation was given to Councillor Alexander and Councillor Thomas to approve that summary sheet for submission to the DFT, and that was undertaken before the end of December. So those are all the actions, Chair.
Thank you. Are we okay to approve the minutes? Any proposed? Do we have a second or any objections or amendments?
We just note that amendment from Louise.
We noted the amendment, but we missed out the fact that
Sorry, that was my fault,
Louise did attend last time. We missed that out. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, David. Okay, that's great. Public participation. So we have questions from, who do we have questions from, Hannah?
I hope I pronounced this right, but I believe it's David Bartho and David Redwell who's here today.
Okay. Is David online?
I think he's sent in a written question.
He sent in a written question, so we'll provide a written answer for him, I think. And David Redwell, we'll also, would you like a written answer? We're going to obviously give you a verbal answer in as much as we can, but would you also like a written?
Yes, please.
You would.
But the question I really want to raise, and
Yes.
I raised this at a conference in Manchester with the other STBs, is the role of coaches. We're doing a lot of work on coaches. In Cheltenham, we're building a brand new coach and interchange, Earls Court. which is great. I've just been talking to Caroline, she's been doing work on Salisbury coach station with National Express. But I just want, and obviously Andrew Davis, the work just with in the Peninsula, is also very heavily involved in trying to discuss with National Express the network. But so I suppose the issue I'm really keen on, especially with these facilities opening, is what discussions are going, and Bristol being a hub on the coast in the South West. The two boards, and Bournemouth in particular, is a link we missed. We haven't got a link. Everyone wants to go from Bournemouth to Bristol and up to Cheltenham and Gloucester, but we just don't have coach service that goes that direction. We don't have train service. So I think the issue I'm really asking is, where are we with discussions with Megabus, which is part of Scottish City Link, the Department for Transport, who did assure me they take coaches as part of their bus and taxi division very seriously on schedules, and also with Flix and NX. And I think there needs to be perhaps a working party with Peninsula to see where we're going to improve the region's coach network, because you're not going to go every how much Network Rail say they want to do everything. Then, as Mark Cotton, if he was in the room still today, they literally don't go to a lot of places. And Great Western being very pragmatic and saying, well, it can't be done by bus, get there by coach or by bus. So effectively, I'm really asking about where we are with the operators. There's lots of good work in new interchanges, Swindon opening as well soon, but we need to engage National Express, Megabus and Flix, particularly with the opening of Cheltenham, see where we are. See, I'm not asking for intercity coach stations to not be served. I certainly want to see Royal Wells having quite a Cheltenham, but it's very important that we do engage the operators.
So are you talking about a north-south?
Yes, north-south.
Without changing, because you can change.
Well, you change it Reading if you want to go, down to Bournemouth. I've covered Dorset, Bournemouth, Christchurch, and I'm coming from Cheltenham. I go to Reading. There's no direct coach, there's no direct railway service.
Yes.
It is bizarre, and we need to bring those coach links back. They're never going to be commercial. This is the point. They're always going to require some element of public subsidy, and we've done that in the past with bus operator grants for coach operators. But I do think this conversation is important. Where people think they're going to put trains everywhere. Sorry to disillusion you, Network Rail's very expensive to run. It's not going to put trains everywhere. Main line is just down to Weymouth from Bristol, and we need to make sure we pick up that issue. I mean, Hannah's got a new coach station at Western, but I think it's about 3 coaches a day go through it. Taunton, we're bringing the coach station back in Taunton, linking down to Plymouth and Exeter. We've done work at Exeter as well, which is Peninsula. But we need to coordinate that coach service. So I'm just asking the two transport boards, because the regional network on, how do we get that back together? And we're keen as well to see if we can talk to the operators, get some discussion, and perhaps get these gap filled. And if we need funding, talk to our friends at the Department for Transport about regional funding for the South West.
Thank you. Well, you'll see in our STP that we are just producing, there's a strong north-south link theme coming through. So I think there's a number of modes which are weak in that area, and obviously a coach link would be more likely if there was a better road link. That's a definite fact, isn't it? And not that I'm suggesting that, but that is a fact. So there's a whole area there to be discussed. But no, thanks, Dave. It's a good point. I'm a great fan of coach travel myself.
I'm the lead for a coach and I work Western Gateway. There's some bits of information I could provide to David.
There's bits of information, and indeed, we need to consider our role. Is it a convening role? Go over the head of local authorities, transport authorities, indeed, or would we have the resources? We're coming on to resources later. Would we have the resources? We are a very thin organisation in that sense. So for us to start convening would remove other items from our work programme. There's no question. That's just the way it is. That happens.
We have commenced some work on that. Did you want me to describe any of it, or how's the timing going?
I tell you what, if you can describe it in your response to David, our response to David, and copy me in, please. And then we can give it some thought as to whether it's something we can include in our work programme. You'll understand with our budget, David, now we're already resequencing stuff today because of our budget. We're not best placed. We have produced the coach strategy, which has highlighted that very issue. Probably taking it further is for others with a bigger budget, I would have thought, in all honesty. But But thank you for raising it. It's a good one. Thank you. So thanks for all our public forum questions. Yes, Chris.
Could I ask what Chris talking about? Is that up on the website actually under the public participation questions? That as well.
Great. It's a very important discussion. Thank you. So thank you to both of our contributors to the public forum. And now we move on to our updates. And David's not with us, but remind me of the name of the person who's Ross. I apologise, Ross.
He hasn't arrived yet.
Ross is not here yet, so we'll go to Network Rail with Matt and Jamie. Do you have an update for us? Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yes, we certainly do. Just to remind folks, I'm the lead strategic planner for Western Route, and Jamie fulfills the same role for Wessex Route. And yeah, as you say, thank you, Jamie, for joining us today. And as we've talked about before, and I know you're all familiar with, Western Gateway falls across two Network Rail route boundaries. But Jamie and I speak very regularly to make sure that we're coordinated. But of course, some of the particularly interesting work streams Jamie is actually leading, and we'll talk about those. I think we'll cover two kind of areas really in this fairly brief update. So firstly, I'll just talk through some relevant sort of wider industry updates, and then we will move on to the progress of our joint strategic planning and business case development work as well. So that's what we intend to cover this afternoon. Apologies, this time there is no written update. I can follow this with some notes and some links that might be of interest. I'm afraid this meeting arrived very late in my calendar, and I missed the deadline to share a written update. But hopefully, what I'm about to take you through will be of use and of interest. So, since the last board meeting in February, ministers put forward the draft rail reform bill. This is the bill that would it proposes legislation that would enact the reform agenda, Great British Railways, if you like, would create an integrated rail body that would see transfer of the franchising powers for rail services to that body from the Secretary of State. So it's a really important process in the reform agenda. And the bill, as expected, carries forward the themes of the plan for rail, one of which, of course, is stronger regional partnerships and role for regional and subnational organisations. The draft bill is now going through sort of pre-legislative scrutiny led by the Transport Select Committee, but of course, government has been clear that this will be for a future administration to enact. So we can be confident that the themes that are still very much part of the bill, but this will be subject to events the next few months. One of the themes, though, is the importance of rail freight in the railway system, which of course is well known but often neglected. And actually, also since the last meeting, government has confirmed an ambitious rail freight growth target. So this is a national target for 75% more freight carried by rail by 2050, which is really encouraging to see. And clearly within the Western Gateway, there are some nationally significant freight flows, and indeed origins. The quarries in Mendip quarries see some of the longest and heaviest freight trains in the country. So that's encouraging to see. We are here on the 13th of March on the doorstep of Control Period 7. So that's the 5-year period, 2024 to 2029, on which Network Rail is funded. So the ORR have set out what's called the final determination, which says effectively what Network Rail needs to deliver and the funding to do so in Control Period 7. That determination sets out an amount which is relatively slightly lower than CP6, reflecting, which is obviously the last 5 years, reflecting where we are financially as an industry. And indeed, there's a small reduction in what we propose to do in terms of renewal of the network, but an increased focus on the core assets, obviously on train performance, on carbon reduction, and indeed on freight growth as well. And Network Rail will be publishing our sort of final business plan at the end of this month. But of course, enhancements are funded separately anyway. They're not part of that final determination. Enhancements are funded according to a separate process with a funding decision at each of the business case points, strategic outline business case, the outline business case, and the full business case. So now we're going to talk through sort of the if you like, in some ways, the more interesting stuff, the relevant strategic planning and business case development work streams that that Western Gateway members have a role in. So I'll start by bringing up to speed on the Wiltshire study. So the Wiltshire rail study, as you'll recall, builds on the Devizes Gateway business case, which was the Restoring a Railway scheme, and it looks at a wider suite of improved passenger and freight services in Wiltshire. And as many will be in violent agreement, we think there's a real strong case for bridging some existing rail connectivity gaps in Wiltshire. One of the key elements is a service that featured in that Devizes work, so an hourly service between Paddington and Westbury that we are investigating, and another is regular hourly trans-Wilts services, Swindon to Westbury and indeed south of Westbury as well. I've mentioned that we absolutely need to make sure we're accommodating freight growth as well. So the Wiltshire study is coming to a conclusion next month. We should have a draft report for consultation at the end of April, and we expect and hope that we can collectively we can identify business cases as a result of that work that we would like to progress and really try to draw down some funding to deliver these rail service improvements. So that's the Wiltshire study. I'll hand over to Jamie to talk through the Salisbury study. Jamie.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. Oh, sorry. And thank you for inviting me. And just on one note, I'm really pleased with the what we saw in your strategic transport plan, where it showed how aligned we are between Western Gateway and the work Matt and I do. There was reference to all our studies and stuff, which is brilliant, and it just shows that we're quite an example of how we work together. Anyway, so Salisbury area strategic study. So this is looking at what is called the Salisbury area signalling area, rather. So it spreads out to Tisbury, up towards Warminster and down towards Romsey and I want to say Greatly on the east side. And we have a in control period 8, we are planning on doing a big resignaling of the Salisbury area. So it's important for us to get our strategy work done to understand what we might need in the future. So the work my colleague Joe has been doing, which Western Gateway and all the local authorities have all been part of, has been looking at a number of service changes, some of those that Matt mentioned from the Wiltshire study, other ones that we've talked about in some of our other studies that we have published, and understanding what that means at Salisbury. So with the idea that we identify a number of signalling changes that we would require, and we'll bid for money to get included in the re-signalling. So the work Joe's done has looked at reopening platform 1 at Salisbury. It's looked at increasing the number of signals on the route to Warminster and the route down to Romsey, because that will allow you to stack your trains better. So that's really important for future capacity. And looking at the impact of the decarbonisation work that we are doing on the West of England line, to understand what that means for the depot and what you need in the future. So that study is going really well. And we'll continue on probably into the end of spring, I think. So that's the only major strategic study that we are doing that affects you guys. But we've also got these things called strategic station plans. Now, these are very focused, very local documents. We've published one on Yeovil, which is obviously just over the border for you, but and we've published one on Wareham. Now these documents have been done closely with all the stakeholders. They're joint documents. They have all the bus companies, etc., all involved. And it's about looking at places where we've got a service change that we've suggested in our strategic studies, and then going, well, what does that mean for some of the key locations? So at the moment, so as I say, we published the one on Wareham, which is associated with the Dorset Metro idea. And we are in the process of doing one on Bournemouth at the moment, and the Bournemouth one is being seen as a precursor to the Dorset Metro work that we're planning on doing with Western Gateway in the next financial year. Because we're doing some timetable work as part of that to understand what happens at Bournemouth, we believe you will need an extra platform, and that opens up a whole load of opportunities for doing accessibility and all those sorts of things. So that's being led at the moment by Rory and my team, and then we're also looking at Dorchester, and we're looking at the Dorchester stations with the view that you can interchange between Dorset West and Dorset South by the walk that I know Dorset Council have been looking at, and how you can improve that route between the two stations. So that one's just kicking off, and I believe James has been invited to a first steering group meeting on that. I think that's me on strategic studies. I'll go into Matt. Am I all right to go into SOBCs now? Yeah. So the great stuff, and another way in which we're aligned and working together, is that you have very kindly, based on our strategic work, given us some funding to help progress some of the recommendations. So there's a couple that you are funding at the moment, and I mentioned the Dorset Metro one, which is one coming up in the next financial year. So we've got the Heart of Wessex line, which goes back to the north-south corridor that you guys were just talking about, and that is about having a 1 train per hour service on the Heart of Wessex line, which we think could be transformational. And Western Gateway have very kindly funded some of the engineering feasibility work to understand what the infrastructure we require looks like. So it's a lot of single track on the Wessex end of the line, so between sort of Castle Carey and Weymouth. So we need loop infrastructure, so we need to double track a section or two, depending on how you do the stopping patterns, and that work's been going really well. We're just finalising the economic case. We've sent out a very early draft of the strategic case that is with local authorities and Western Gateway to comment on, and we're aiming in the next month to have an updated first draft that we can send out with the economic case as well. So that one's coming along really well. The other one we're working with you, we're just trying to kick off now, is the West of England line stuff. So we're doing some stuff with Devon on the Devon end of the line, but for the Western Gateway end, we are looking at how you can increase the number of services between Salisbury and Yeovil Junction to encourage modal shift, etc. This is the one which you may have heard of, that involves a loop at Tisbury to extend the loop into the station, and we're looking at that from many perspectives, from the perspective of performance benefits, journey time improvements, and additional capacity, and that will feed into what I mentioned earlier, the Salisbury work, because of the signalling being controlled from there. So that one's about to start, and we've been working with James on that. I think that's my ones, Matt, if you want to do yours.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, just very briefly. So equally, Western Gateway has agreed to contribute to the Bristol to Oxford direct service, SOBC. So we are now working to produce an SOBC in actually the end of this month or middle of April that puts forward the case for a direct service every hour throughout the week between Bristol and Oxford, which has got an important role in actually not only in Western Gateway's rail strategy, but also in England's economic heartland, and is one of the services that we think really there's a very, very strong case to come forward. It will, of course, need continued support, and not just a very strong business case, which we hope to be able to produce and share next month. So another really encouraging example of working together. Final point, I think, is that both Western and Wessex routes, so both GWR and SWR, are operating a fleet of aging diesel trains, and we know that replacement of those trains is going to be required in around about the early 2030s. And what Jamie and I are both in the early stages of is building a case for replacement of those trains being not solely diesel trains. So the opportunity to deliver trains that are capable of being diesel free. And whilst we're in the early days of making that case, I think there absolutely will be a role for the STB and indeed for local authorities, at the very least, to support and make very clear, the desire throughout the gateway to have a non-diesel only future, and really the point at which you need to replace a large fleet of rolling stock is absolutely the decision point that we need to influence. So that I'm sure is a theme that we will return to, but one that I wanted to raise today as well. So thanks very much. That's all Jamie and I were intending to share, but I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Matt and Jamie. That was very stimulating. Can I remind members of the board that, I'm sure you might have a question or two, but I have already blown the agenda timetable. So it's all time coming off from STP discussions. Chris.
Yeah. Matt, it's I hope a short one for now about the Bristol-Oxford case. We were talking about that at the West of the Network Rail breakfast this morning, and the levels of interest in the national strategic significance of really putting a concerted case by the time you put Temple Quarter into it, by the time you put the Swindon redevelopment into it, by the time you put Grafton into it, becomes really very important. And coming out this morning, a number of us, including Bristol's West and Western and so on, were all saying we think we need to get a much bigger group of partners, the universities and people around this table together to really actually put a case that is of national strategic significance around that, and the connecting of this part of the country into what historically has been the Oxford-Cambridge-London triangle, into a rather big triangle, putting Oxford in its place as being a stop on the hypotenuse of the triangle. And if we do begin to get those conversations going, please can we make sure we include Wiltshire? It would be very easy to have that narrative around the university areas and forget that Wiltshire really is critical in that, because actually everything goes through it. You can get one along there.
We telephone. Yeah.
Yes, this is part of one of the thoughts in the Wiltshire-wide strategy that was mentioned earlier on is, Wiltshire's great for travelling through, not quite so great if you want to actually stop or start your journey in Wiltshire. So yes, thank you very much for raising that. Really appreciate it. I think it is incredibly important that we're not just a through counting, we are part of. We're a participant in it.
Tamara?
My question, Matt, is also on the Bristol to Oxford SABC. You'll obviously be aware that Wiltshire has aspirations for rail connectivity at Corsham and at Norwood and Bassett. Will that SABC cover those or include those in any way? Obviously, Corsham has had its RYR submission. It'd be really good to have an update on that.
Hi, Tamara. Thanks. Very good question. So you're absolutely right that the Corsham Bristol Railway SABC identified just this type of a service as being probably a requirement before that station could take its place in the network. So what we are doing is not making the case again for Corsham, but making sure that we are able to be very clear on how the service could fit a station at Corsham, which would then need to have the case made. But as we said with Corsham, and indeed with Witton Bassett or other stations, actually one of the really key considerations is a service that could call there, and this could well be that service. But the case we're making is absolutely, and I think rightly, narrowly focused on a convincing argument about effectively about DfT Treasury funding the OPEX that would be required to run this service, and we're very clear that this is hopefully a near at hand thing that we could actually see delivered, and so at this point we want to make sure that it can accommodate but is not one and the same as the case for Corsham or other new stations. Hopefully that's clear.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. If I could thank Jamie and Matt. You're welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting if you'd like, or if you've got other work to get on with, we understand, but thank you very much for giving a really stimulating, comprehensive report to us today. David?
Just a very short one.
Yes, very short.
The reference to non-diesel, I would hope that it's clear that diesel is off the table, but from what you were saying, it almost sounded like that was definitely still a possibility, that the diesel fleets will be replaced with other diesel. Is that right? Or is it just a question of what they're replaced with, which will be non-diesel?
A good question, and one that we could spend weeks and months talking about. I think we need to make it abundantly clear that the option needs to not be a new diesel train, but all options need to be costed and a case put forward, and so that's what we're making sure that we can do. But you're absolutely right. There are various non-diesel options, including hybrid types of traction that we would see being feasible, and now we need to make sure that we can justify why that's also the right decision to make.
And could I just add there as well that certainly the work we've been doing on the West of England line, we're very keen to make sure that DfT understand that changing the rolling stock doesn't just necessarily mean changing the rolling stock. You need to do infrastructure changes too. They're not two separate things. So it's us trying to bring track and train together more. And I think, so if you have battery powered trains, you do need to charge them, and on lines like the West of England line, you are likely to need electrification at certain points, even if you did do battery. So it's very important that we remember that as well. Thanks.
Right, thank you. I'm going to move very swiftly now to Alice, who is in the room with us for our National Highways update. Thank you. And we're coming on the 30th.
Yes.
On the
yes.
trip, I hope. I don't know how I'm getting there. If anyone's coming from Bristol, let me know, and I will catch a lift with you, because it's a bit out in the middle of nowhere. Over to you, Alice.
So, you have got a written update from us in your pack, but just to pull out three main headlines from that today, just to try and keep it brief for you. So, on the A417 missing link scheme, we've reached the next major milestone in the construction of that scheme. So our contractors are now beginning the earthworks for the offline construction of the road. We're very conscious that it's these early phases where we've been clearing and demolishing properties and starting to sort of really dig up the landscape, which is kind of really concerning for everybody, and we really appreciate that. So we're ramping up the communications to remind people of the big purpose of the scheme, why we're doing this, what the overall sort of aims and benefits of it will be, and emphasise the care that we've taken already in looking after the wildlife that is there, and rehoning that and the plans for reinstating the landscape as we get towards the end of the scheme. So it's the broader big picture message rather than just look at the construction site now that we're trying to kind of really bring across. And we're really looking forward to showing members of the STB around the site at the end of April. So we've just put a reminder out to people to let me know if we definitely want to come to that, because we just need to firm up on numbers on that. We've got some public information events during March and April planned on this. We've got monthly newsletters going out already. We've got an open doors event open to everybody, members of the public and everyone on the 19th of March. And we've also got a range of archaeology events following that as well. So there's quite a lot going on, particularly on the common side as we start the major construction on that one. Moving on to A303 Stonehenge, you'll remember the DCO was approved by the Secretary of State last year, but was promptly challenged in the autumn. And hopefully we've heard some good news that we've had received a positive outcome from that latest legal challenge. So whilst the legal proceedings are just drawing to a close in terms of all the paperwork, we are making plans now to start preliminary work on site later this year. RIS 3, I always need to include an update on this one, except that this time there is no update really. We are still waiting for DfT's publication of the draft RIS, which will confirm the total level of funding available for the next road period starting from 2025. So time is marching on. We're very conscious of that. We've got a lot of effort going on into finishing the completion of the delivery of RIS 2. But we are, of course, moving at pace towards the final publication of the final RIS later this year, followed by National Highways Business Plan and Delivery Plan. So lots of work still going on, although we're still waiting as well for the draft RIS to kind of meet the light of day.
Thank you, Alice. Do we have questions from anyone? Caroline.
Just a request in terms of an update on the North-South study publication.
Similarly, unfortunately, no change. The study is completed, has been completed for a long time. Recommendations have been with ministers for a while, and we are waiting publication, or waiting go ahead of being able to move into publication of that. I think all the board members are aware of what the affected local authorities and councillors are aware of the recommendations, but we've not actually been able to go public on that until ministers have responded. So unfortunately, it's still waiting on that one. It's tied up within the list of I was wondering about discussions and deliberations, I think. So and the pre-election politics, which are obviously interesting at the moment.
Very discreet of you. Thanks.
That was actually the substance of the other public question we received, so it'd be interesting to get the question and hear answers.
Yes, great, thank you. Anyone online there who has got questions for Alice, or no?
None from me, thanks.
No? That's it then. Well, thank you very much, Alice. And we'll, I certainly hope to be with you on the 30th. I'm sure others will as well. That will be a good chance to meet up. Thank you.
Chair, we're hoping that Ross Burton from DFT will join in the second hour.
In the second hour. Okay, so we will adjust our agenda accordingly then, because we would like an update from the DFT. David is not able to be with us, but Ross is going to be coming, but perhaps not in the time slot we had intended. So we move on to item 5 on the agenda, if we may. Proposed programme and business plan for 24-25. Paper B. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, back in December, the board was asked to delegate to the chair and vice chair submitting a business plan summary sheet to the Department for Transport. This was done. It was based around expected funding levels from the Baroness Beer letter, which was from March 2022, which set out funding for the Western Gateway over 22, 23, 24, 23, 24 and 24, 25. That was at a much higher level of funding than we actually then received for 23, 24. But that was the advice given by the Department for Transport to submit a business plan based on that higher level of funding, which it would be 896,000. Subsequently, the Department of Transport have also advised that we should submit alternative or put forward alternative options should the funding level be less. Essentially, that means being based around current levels of funding, which is 605,000 for 23-24. On top of that budget, there's also the £20,000 contribution from each of the 9 authorities. So that's another 180,000. So table 1 in the document, paper B, sets out the proposed programme for 24-25 with suggested funding levels. And yes, this is based on that much higher level of funding. The key aim is to keep the momentum going on our various key projects. That will include taking forward the strategic transport plan and producing the strategic investment plan, continuing our work on rural mobility and rail and freight, and also coaches, and then picking up on some of the areas that were put a bit on hold last year because of the levels of funding. So picking up on work around alternative fuels for freight, business case support and the regional centre of excellence, but also maintaining the work that's been done already on things like electric vehicle charging and the cycle strategy work, which we're very keen to finish off. That's been ongoing for some time. You will see, however, from section 3 that should the level of funding be based around current levels of funding, i.e. the £605,000 from the Department for Transport, we will have to look again at the programme, and there are some suggested ideas in section 3 where we may well have to put some areas of work on hold for 24-25 or reduce the budget allocated to those work areas. This obviously is not the best position to be in. and should it occur that we are going to have the same level of funding as this year, then Chair, we will need to bring back a revised programme to the board for their approval. We are still waiting to hear what levels of funding we're going to get for 24-25, and hopefully Ross, when he does join us, can provide us with more of an update. All of the other subnational transport bodies, they are in the same position, waiting to hear what their budget is going to be for 24-25. Obviously, we're all very keen to get on and plough on ahead with all our work areas. And we will endeavour to do that as much as possible without having confirmation of the budget, but it would obviously help give us a lot more confidence if we know how much funding we're going to have to spend in 24-25. So I think, Chair, that's all I wanted to cover on that, and just to reminder that we will have to bring back a revised report to the board should the level of funding turn out to be less than the full amount that we were previously going to expect.
Thank you. Has anyone got any thoughts, comments, or questions on?
Just on the
yes, David.
On the timing. So obviously we're talking about a period that starts in 3 weeks or something. So in terms of those decisions about if we do have to pick and choose between our projects, can we afford to wait for the next meeting of the board to do that, or do we need to, as soon as we're aware of what amount of cloth they're cutting for us, have a quick a proposal and maybe a call in to just talk through and confirm the decisions? Otherwise you'll have a period where you don't know what you're committed to.
Maybe Ross can answer that question for us when he comes.
Yeah, well, that's why
at least give us an answer that we can work with.
Yeah, Chair, I think, Chair, if I can suggest, we can call an extra meeting if need be between this one and the June board. I will just flag up that last year we didn't hear from the Department of Transport until July the 20th on funding levels. But let's hope, and Ross hopefully will give us a better indication. But that would be, I think that would, if we could have an extra meeting, especially if we hear fairly soon on the levels of funding, because we don't, I quite agree with Councillor, we don't really want to wait till June to come back with a revised proposal. We want to get on and commission work and crack on with everything that we want to do.
Okay, so we'll chat to Ross when he comes. Any further comments from anyone? Hannah? No?
Just echo the frustrations around the timing.
Yes, indeed. Okay, shall we move on to the main item in a sense on our agenda? Yes.
Yeah, could I just ask, and I should have flagged this up, there are 4 recommendations to the business plan report. Could I ask you to put those forward, please?
Of course. Yes. So that's paper.
Jess, are you able to bring those up?
Okay, so approve the 24-25 business plan for the Western Gateway set out in Table 1. To note the work areas where funding would have to be reduced should lower levels of funding be awarded. Request a revised business plan be brought to the board should a lower level of funding be awarded. Agree to the £20,000 annual contribution per authority for 24-25, very important. That one, so at least we've got some budget. Is everyone happy with that? Could you raise your hand if you're happy with that, please? Voting members, yes. Hannah, you're okay with that? Any other? I think that covers all of our authorities, doesn't it, really? Nobody's voted 3 times, sorry. Great. You're all right with that, James?
Thank you,
and obviously, as David has said, if we need to have an extraordinary, perhaps online, may I suggest meeting in order to give you the kind of steer, should we suddenly come up with funding settlement from the DFT, and you felt that you needed a steer, then we're happy to do that. But I think probably online is more realistic, especially given elections, and some of us have got. Great, thank you. So on now to the strategic transport plan itself. And as I said, for those of you who weren't here earlier, those of us who are in the room have got the first paper copies, looking very attractive. Shane Ross isn't here to hear how much we like this, but anyway, he will be soon, we hope. But would anyone like to comment on it? I mean, we've had some reflections in private, we've had some ongoing backwards and forwards emails. Feel free to reiterate that. Any concerns? Recognising that the timeline has been quite short, we're very grateful to Hannah, to the project board, Caroline, for all their work. Yes, please, bring it up, and we'll just, Hannah, you can take us through it.
Yeah, sure.
Is that all right when it comes up on there?
No problem. So just a brief reminder of background to this document. We originally, sort of in September, October last year, proposed a programme that was close to 12 months, so delivery of the STP by the end of 2024. And then in the December board, decision was taken to try and accelerate that process to have something ready for a potential early general election. That was a view that was also echoed by DFT at the recommendation. So, oh, sorry.
No, it wasn't. I only just noticed. Manda, you've got a question. Is it? Would you like to ask it before we go through the document?
No, I was getting my hand up soon, but I'd like a question at the end if it's not been answered during the presentation. Thanks, Chair.
Brilliant. If you could answer it, Hannah, then she won't ask it. Thank you.
Okay.
Carry on.
Yes, so in order to sort of facilitate the delivery in that much shorter time frame, a couple of sort of subsidiary decisions were taken. One was that we would divorce the development of the strategic investment plan from the development of the sort of policy plan, because this plan, the strategic investment plan, required a sustainability appraisal and public consultation, so we've separated that out. Haven't undertaken additional public consultation over and above that was done on the issues and options paper at about this time last year. And what else have we done? And we weren't able to undertake any kind of, or finish off any ongoing research to add into the plan. So there's a few things that therefore get slightly light touch in the plan. It was mentioned in the pre-meet that the cycling strategy is not complete, so we've not been able to bring through specific outputs into the plan. And instead of signposted that for future work. Same thing with the M4 to South Coast study, which obviously hasn't been published. And I think another key area of that is that we've been updating our transport model, and while that has got to a state where it's been able to give us core forecast scenarios, it isn't yet ready to support more detailed scenarios or modelling of outputs in the plan, but it will be for the strategic investment plan. We then took forward some elements of work that had already been completed when we were pursuing the long programme, which the board agreed. So that was to retain the overarching vision for the document that we discussed between us and agreed in earlier meetings. The framing of the STP around the three aims from the Department for Transport, and also we agreed the criteria that we used to differentiate what should be within the scope of a regional plan as opposed to a national or a local plan, and those have been consistently carried through that, and responsibility for the day-to-day oversight of the plan was then delegated to a project board comprising Councillor Thomas's executive member, and then Steve Thornton from North Somerset, thank you, and Alice Darley from National Highways representing the user and the supplier perspectives within that project board. So that's how we've progressed. While we haven't done public consultation, we've engaged extensively through a lot of groups, and we've received and responded to, I think, close on 200 kind of comments on specific bits of representations. So it's been around the houses in the limited time of development quite well, and yeah, this is what we've ended up with here. So the board are asked to either approve this document as it stands, or approve with sort of minor amendments that the existing project board would then have delegated responsibility to see through. And secondly, once the plan is agreed, to move into the stage of developing the strategic investment plan.
Thank you, Hannah. I mean, I think we'll have to assume that there will be a delegation of minor amendments to the board, actually, otherwise we're all going to notice some things, given the speed it's been created, we're all going to notice some things we wish we hadn't set in stone at this meeting. So that's assumed, but shall we start, Amanda? Was your question answered or was it not? Must have been, she's gone.
It's been answered.
Oh, it's been answered. Now we're left wondering what it was. Oh, right. Okay, Vicky.
Thank you, John. It's been really good actually to see this develop, and thank you for the comments we made earlier about making a bigger mention about cycling and active travel through some of the elements, and the change to clarifying it's the gateway to the West Country, not just Wales. For anyone that might look at this and think, oh my lord. I just wondered what the proposals are around the implementation plans and the engagement with local authorities around when they're likely to be done and how we're going to be doing that level of engagement.
Great. Do you want to answer that, James or Hannah?
Are you meaning the strategic investment plan element?
Yeah, in terms of what comes from this. This is a really great start, isn't it? And it'd be good to know that we're not, we're no longer being an outlier. But actually, it is the start of the 10, really, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think we've been pretty much heads down on getting this far so far. So our next stage, assuming this is approved or approved with minor amendments, is then to start building in a programme plan for the development of the SIP, and properly kind of sketching that out and making sure we've got the boxes ticked from there. And I imagine there will be a lot of debate and discussion about the criteria we use for prioritisation and assessment. We're starting from basic work from some of the other STBs that have already been down this plan to use as a starting point. So it's the next stage of work, and it's not, we haven't defined it yet, but it will be next on the list.
Might we expect to see, starting obviously the next meeting with the AGM in June, but by September we might start to see the first shoots at the beginning, or are we expecting it to take a lot longer than that, just so that we can...
We talked about consultation in late 24, 25, which is kind of fourth quarter, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's this time next year. And I think, obviously if work can be done to bring it closer, then that would be ideal. But we just talked about funding difficulties, absolutely. But I think we need to give ourselves a little bit of space. And if we bear in mind that we were going to do the longer form in that sort of time frame, but we've already got something with a lot of meat on the bones to create the framework for then the detailed work with the associated consultation. I think that kind of feels reasonable.
And we will be using the senior officers group, the transport officers group, Transport and Business Forum, and yourselves in all of this. I'm suggesting probably having these couple of workshops similar to the one we had to produce the strategic transport plan, informal workshop with all of you to share what's emerging and to get your input. So very much a plan which should be produced working with all the local authorities around the table and on screen.
And I suppose one of the other key questions is whether or not it'd be worthwhile taking forward the model we've used for this one to help develop the strategic infrastructure investment plan. Sorry, are people comfortable with that as a model that works quite agile, in an agile fashion to keep things going, but with regular touch points back with the wider board?
I think it is.
All the members, regardless of whether it's in a board format or not.
It's worked well, but in the hands of the individuals who've had it in their hands this time. I think as a model, yes, but it does need to be chair of the project board and others. But certainly, I didn't feel left out, but I felt that the work was being done, and that's kind of tension, and that just haven't got the time to do everything. All of this, so to have it in the hands of people who've offered to, but we trust, it's really important, Chris.
It does make it, but I think I think the model that was used was really good because it was very light touch and very quick. But remember, at that point, we were capturing what it is we've all been saying for a long time. So we'd had that long lead time of ironing out the wrinkles and working out where we may have differences of emphasis. As we go forward and we start talking about implementation plans and so on, some of those tensions might require a bit more teasing out. So it might not be possible to be quite as quick and agile. The other complication, I think, is the timeline. I like the timeline, Caroline. I think we need to recognise that we may have a new government and sorting out the priorities of what we do next are going to require us to have a little bit of time to work out what their agenda is and how it impacts on our priorities and how we articulate our priorities.
Yeah, so I think that consultation end of 24-25 has got to be flexible because we quite right. I mean, who only knows? May.
I think knowing us, the level of flexibility will be built into it. Yes, obviously. Yeah, no question that they're good points. We do all want to be involved, and it is a big piece of work when you think about it. But it has to be done in a certain amount of time, and yeah, it has to, it's you know, power lies with those who turn up at the end of the day, doesn't it? As our mayor always says, you've really got to be there, and you've got to give the time. They've got to make that time somehow. So we'll have to see who of us can get involved and how involved we can be when it comes to it, and what model works given that the constraints.
Can I just make
Yes.
a point about documents?
Yes, of course you can. Yeah.
These are all fine-tuning things, so they're all things for lots of commerce committees. When you get to, certainly when you get to read the final draft, I think the final draft is amazing. But when you get to read the final draft, you just notice some emphases that perhaps aren't just quite where we think we are. The first and last mile end-to-end journey planning thing, which is particularly a place where things like cycling perhaps come more to the fore. The use of the word sustainability alongside growth, because none of us want unsustainable growth. That's just a disaster for everybody. I do worry about, you know, the page that's got the holding map on it, because I think the strategic growth areas question is such a movable feast at the moment. We know where our economic hotspots are, but actually putting blobs that are at all specific begins to feel wrong in the context of so many emerging local plans. And then I thought, well, if you take that out and you've only got the tourism areas, that plays into those bits of the world who think that the West of England is all about buckets and spades, whereas actually it's buckets and spades and World Heritage and an enormously important international economic area. As a probably, I hope the final version will not have that holding map, so I can't see how we can get everything without making it very dated. And there's one final thing that I haven't raised earlier. I was listening to David and I was thinking there was something about accessibility. And the extent to which everybody around this table wants to commit to a regional priority being accessibility.
Especially with our ageing population.
Absolutely.
And I'll just respond on that last one. So you will notice that we've got a theme going through everything. So particularly shown on the page where you've got the challenges in relation to the 3 aims. So accessibility, equity, we thought was important as opposed to obviously affordability and safety. So what we kind of thought that they're challenges in their own right, they're issues in their own right, and rather than try and make them into one or make them into 4 separate ones, we label those as themes that have to be addressed in every consideration.
They're given in everything.
We might not have pulled that out, maybe enough in the words. Maybe we
It needs to all work on
pull
this.
that out in the words, but that's the intention of that green bar.
That makes huge sense. It's going to be lovely. Just give me more keywords.
Yeah. With the map, it's an interesting one, this, because for me, the logic of the map was this is where we are now, and it speaks to the issues and challenges that we're talking about needing to address. so it will be out of date, hopefully. But that was the kind of thinking of that map giving us not exactly a starting point, because everything's constantly on the go. But that was the idea. So it's whether or not that idea of imprint works or not.
I think the idea of the difference is that the way you then flag strategic growth areas is that we end up going back to a set of strategic plans, which in many cases are 10 years out of date. And so the mapping that was being articulated was the old core strategies and the old county structure plans for those of us that haven't got our new local plans in place. And that then, I could not go back to Yale and say I've signed a regional document that Yale is a growth area, for example.
If it was the strategic areas that have been grown.
This is how it is.
Yes, areas that have experienced strategic growth, that might be a better way to say it.
This is what's there, as opposed to what's planned.
In which case it might be good if we get the rubric right and we're vague enough in our blocks.
Or indeed clear enough that this
Or
is...
clear enough that this is just a map of what is there, not what the people have planned. Hannah, sorry.
Yeah, I think I probably just need to explain on this a little further. So, what was intended to go on that map is not exactly what's there, but what is committed to an extent that it can't be undone. Or that this is how it's described to me by the. So, for our updated highways model, all of the local authorities provided their future planning information, and what they provided was committed development up to 2050. So that is what would be proposed to be included on this map, because it's showing the areas in which growth is committed that we then need to provide for sustainable continuity.
But that's my problem, because most of those areas date, certainly I can only speak for the Wecker areas, that's the only one I know in detail, the places that they get supplied are the areas that were committed in plans that are 10 years old, and the rate at which development happens, most of those are already built, they are done, they are not commitments, they're actuality, and putting those commitments makes it look as though they are, more of it is going to happen, and that in the context that everybody in the Wecker area is in around their local plans, that is potentially extremely troublesome.
So they might have been committed once, but they're not necessarily committed now.
No, they're there.
I see it's because you've got a mixture of built out and future commitments.
Yes.
So it's about making that distinction clearer.
And everybody across the regions are just placing their local plan. Although the Wicker area are all in a sort of similar sort of place, I think, give or take 12 months.
Should we take it off? Obviously, we're not going to resolve it.
Let's
here.
have it
Let's have an
offline.
offline conversation.
Maybe if you send a draft around and we can just fine tune it.
And also
so
to
that it's
say
not
that
something
I'm
that's
told
just
I can't have tourism areas because that's too vague a definition, and so that one's off the list too, I'm afraid.
The point is a clearer one, harder line between what is and what is planned. I think, yes.
Yeah, no, it was just to add, in terms of having a map, whatever is actually shown on it, it's really important, I think, from a point of view of bidding, and actually people that will be looking at this in DFT and government might not know our area in detail. So it's important that they know that there are airports or ports and internal links to national strategy, because that's how we would end up being provided with funds. Possibly.
Yeah. In maps are
important
powerful.
to show our stall, basically.
It was a key consideration about making sure this was unique to the Western Gateway, and again, part of the logic behind the map was to bring out that uniqueness and awareness for those who were less aware. With tourism, areas outstanding, natural beauty, natural landscapes now, World Heritage Sites, I'm sure there's plenty that you could.
Yeah. It's a victim of its own success, I think, isn't it? It draws your eye, and then you start to say, you're more critical of it in the sense that you would be a piece of text, because it's quite powerful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think
creating the visual context, the issues, challenges, and hence our strategic investment plan thinking, I think is important.
I don't know I'm just desperate about getting the map along.
Yes.
And setting hairs running in places that really don't need additional hairs running.
Hannah.
Yeah, just to say, I found the maps, both of them. I mean, obviously one is still to be completed, but I think it's an excellent way forward, and I would really want us to be able to keep the second one in. I think the joy of this process, if joy is the right word, is that what we put on the map is within our gift, isn't it? So we don't have to be. I'm sure Chris could outline in 2 minutes if we were asked to do so the strategic growth areas in your area, whether that's something that was previously written in a strategy 10 years ago or something which is reflective of current thinking. So I think it's incumbent on all of us probably just to be really clear about what those are in our own local areas, because that's that's what we're trying to present, isn't it? Where are the challenges going to come? And I think that's absolutely the right thinking, so I would support it remaining.
Great, thanks, Hannah. Great. Other points or anything else, Hannah, you want to highlight, or Caroline, or anyone wants to highlight from the document?
Well, is there logic with having the image on the front page with just a single track?
Oh, the images are all up for discussion, to be honest with you. So we tried to get an even spread of modes and authorities and locations, but it's not there yet. We've just been getting photos in the last few days, so we can totally change these.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a moot point in everything vocabulary used, but mine would be that much sort of the branding is sort of culture.
That says rural hick area, not a lot going on. And the whole point of what we've been doing in this document is saying we have got some amazing rural areas.
Is this a particular county you're going to name it?
It's Dorset.
Sorry.
Ray's not here, so we get the correct picture.
The amazing thing about our region is that somehow we've got to get across the
What's you want on there?
It's that combination of rural and tourism and economic activity.
GCP sent us a really nice aerial photos of like Poole Harbour and what was it? Bournemouth,
coastline.
That's kind of show that mix.
It could be one, and you could have a number of images.
We delegate this to the project board, but we have the ultimate suggestion is coming now from down there.
And when she's out this, what you as a not this sort of authorities, what you think the perception of this region is externally? Because what we've got to do in our imaging in this document is counter those if they're wrong.
Yeah. I mean, my perception is probably similar to yours because I've lived in this area so long, but like national government in London, yeah, maybe thinking southwest peninsula, nice and green, the tourist area, and yeah, so I would be with you in terms of challenging that a little bit. But I do like the idea of maybe having like 3 different photos on different aspects or something. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, just kind of speaking on comms for this, the team was kind of more concerned about moving at pace with the actual text.
Yeah, no, absolutely fair.
So the images are still at the discussion, so if there is any feedback that people would like to give, we welcome that very much. And the image on the front was kind of a quick fix just for the purpose of today's board meeting to make sure that this, to give you a look and feel as to where we're going with it. It's not the final version, but I take on board all of the feedback. I think we are looking at doing, hopefully being able to tell the story on the front page really of the actual document. I appreciate we're not quite there just yet, but it is a working document. So we have a image, which we didn't have this time last week. But I appreciate it's not there at the moment. But a montage, being able to sell the street transport plan in one image or on the front cover is definitely the ambition.
Poole Harbour, either Stonehenge or something, Cotswold, cheesy, cheesebox village, or and then
Brabazon or total quarter.
I think this, well, let's take this out of the meeting, and if you can't agree, we'll have a picture of the chair of the board. I'm sure that will bring you all to agreement rather quickly.
We need a railwayman's hat as well.
Yes. Just to tell you, we've got Ross on the line, and we really all want to speak to Ross. So could we have just concluding comments or questions very quickly? Because, sorry, David.
I just wonder whether we need a tagline. Like, what's the theme for this period? Like an ambition line or something.
I think that's a nice idea.
Vision statements here on the first.
Yeah, a bit more marketing, yeah, a bit more something that grabs a civil servant who yeah. Okay, good suggestion. Anything else? I'm going to move us now to our recommendations, which we need to formally approve or not. So the members of the board are recommended to: 1, approve the Western Gateway Strategic Transport Plan (STP) for publication. 2, agree the production of a subsequent strategic investment plan by the end of 2024.
Consultation by the end of 2024.
Yes, I think. Can we amend that recommendation?
Draft strategic investment plan there, maybe.
Yes.
If it's for consultation, that amounts to draft, doesn't it? Because you will obviously deal with it.
Could we insert draft into that recommendation, please? Because I think that is an important distinction. There's absolutely no way that we're going to achieve that otherwise. And if minor amendments to the STP are required, the board is further recommended to delegate responsibility for the finalisation, approval and publication of the STP to the STP Project Board, Project Executive, Councillor Thomas. Could I have a someone to move that? And can we do this formally? David, move a seconder, please. Vicky, could we go for, please? Anyone for? Anyone against? Abstentions? I have that unanimous, I think. Thank you very much. That's great. If Ross is here, could we invite Ross?
Hello.
Hello, Ross.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. There we are. Volume's a little bit low. Just a second. That may be our.
Is that better?
That's much better. Can everyone hear Ross? Yes. Great. Thank you, Ross, for coming along in the place of David. Welcome to Western Gateway. We've just approved our strategic transport plan unanimously.
Excellent.
So we will send you a copy as soon as the front cover is finalised.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's lovely.
You may recognise him. Yes, we look forward to short report, and we've got a very provocative audience here looking forward to asking you questions after it. So that's welcome.
Sure.
Thank you.
There isn't a huge amount in terms of an update from us. Obviously, budget's been and gone. There was some high-level kind of transport pieces in that, but nothing specific to the southwest. And a few very quite targeted geographic pieces, but a lot of the kind of key stuff the government's focused on around transport has been LTF focused, and with the Network North document that came out before. So there's nothing really major on that front. Just so you're aware, there's a couple of consultations out you might be interested in. One around EV charge points and another on roadworks, both of those related to the plans for drivers. They're available on the DfT website, and actually I'll dig out the links and I'll drop them into the chat after this. I did want to just point out, some of you may have picked up on internal changes in DfT. On a sort of day-to-day basis, that won't affect you very much, but essentially the department is reorganising itself in response to the HS2 announcement. So we're focusing more on deliberately cross-modal activity. So there's a bit of an internal shuffle. Some of the DGs and the groups are changing. Like I say, day to day won't make a big difference, but it might be something you may have picked up on. I just wanted to make you aware that that's happening. That's going to be effective from the 1st of April. There'll be a phase 2, which will essentially be kind of tidying up a few little bits and pieces later in the year, which we'll obviously brief you on as and when that comes out. But really the major point there is around creating a new cross-modal group, which will bring rail, public transport and local transport together. And there'll be a separate group which reigns under Emma Ward, which will be looking after highways maintenance and some of the other stuff that you're interested in. Well, so there'll be some cross-group work, but there's a cross-modal group that's being put into place. On the STB front, thank you all very much for the sheets you put together, the kind of on your business plan going forward. Greatly received if you've used those to inform our advice that's going up to ministers. We're hoping that goes up this week, but we'll be going up shortly. And then hopefully that funding will become before end of or confirmation of funding will come before end of year. So that's kind of where we are with the STB process.
Financially.
My update.
Thank you, Ross. Do we have any questions or comments from anyone? Oh, Chris, thank you.
Yes, trying to keep the list short. One specific question, Ross. Where is DFT at the minute in relation to coach compliance with disability access provision? I'm asking that partly because before you joined us, we had a bit of a conversation about the importance of coach interconnectivity across the region, but partly because we're getting the shortage of stock in the bus companies means that increasingly they are unable to provide rail replacement services, and the rail services are having to use coach operators, and without the DDA compliance on the coach operators, we're finding that very often rail replacement services aren't capable of accommodating passengers with mobility differences. And that's then having knock-on costs because people are having to be ferried around by taxi. And the stumbling block seems to be DFT working on the implementation of the coach accessibility provisions.
Okay. Well, I don't know the specifics of that. I'll take that question away and look in a bit more detail. But our key focus is that we have a transport system that works for everybody. It's a key part of the department's intention, but I will chase that. If that's not happening and it's causing knock-on costs, that's good to know. It's the first time I'd heard that. So thank you. I'll take that away and I'll get back to the board with an answer on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Further questions? James, do you have any questions about any of our more administrative?
No, I don't think so. I don't. Ross, could you just repeat when we might hear the financial?
That's the one. Yes.
Our financial funding for this year. I think you said end of the year, which I take
which
to mean,
year is?
Yes. Sorry. Right. So we are hopeful that there'll be an announcement by end of financial year. So you'll know going into next financial year that there'll be a response on that. That's our hope. With all these things, I mean, the correct civil service answer is probably in due course. But the progress in terms of the advice we're putting up, which we're hopeful to get this week, we're hopeful to get a readout on that. So we'll be in a position to tell you in the next financial year.
Great. I mean, that'd be really helpful.
Really
helpful because obviously we don't meet so regularly to give officers a steer. So if it happened to be tomorrow, it would then be 3 months and post an election for some of us before we were able to reconnect with officers and set agenda, a plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Board, so.
We are conscious of that, and that's why we're trying to push the timeline on it.
Very helpful. Thank you very much. Any further questions? Chris again.
Yeah, Ross, thank you for taking away the coach thing. Whilst you're looking at that, one of the questions we were raising this morning when we met the rail operators in Weka and related area was in relation to rail resilience in terms of accessibility. So we've got some stations where there simply is a limit on disabled disability access, and it's quite tricky to work out how to do it. We've got some where it is in the pipeline, but what we've then got is single points of failure at major interchanges, So, as an easy example, when there was a problem getting a park for the lift at Bristol Parkway, Bristol Parkway was simply not accessible for anybody with mobility issues, even little on me and trouble on the stairs, for quite a considerable time, not just a few days, but weeks and weeks and weeks. So we've got these single points of failure where if they foul up, we may as well not have a disability accessible rail network. And it's how we think with you and with the rail operators around improving the resilience of the network for disability access.
Great. Okay, I'll add that into my list of things to go and to get some more answers on.
Thank you. I think that's everything, Ross. Thank you. Give our regards to David. It's been a good friend to us and a regular attendee and supplier of information. And we appreciate you coming along today. And you're always welcome anytime.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to David, and hopefully he'll be back fully fit and rested from his break next time you convene.
Great. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
And we move on to item 7, Programme Financial Update and Forward Decision Plan. Yes, that's right. Yeah, sorry, I just said a brief concentration went for a moment.
Paper D, if we have that in front of us.
Yes, it's paper D.
Yeah, just going to the table there, 1.2. We have projects that delivered 2020-2023 and 23-24 financial year. Currently, we have 9 work streams that we've been working on simultaneously with the STB, obviously, which is a priority. The first one here is the strategic cycle routes, which we can see there is reporting as AMBA. The final report was completed, which was brought to the board last year. We had some additional comments on that one, which we are now having discussions with actions to take that on board. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to complete that with the priority on the STP, but we would plan to, now that the STP is almost out of the way, we plan to commence work on that one. Hannah is going to give more light on that one later if we need to discuss further. The next one is the alternative fuels for freight. That is reporting as AMBA as well. This one, we really can't influence it because it's a shortlisted tool that is meant to be rolled out by another STP, which is the Midlands Connect. We're still waiting updates from Midlands Connect as to when this is going to be rolled out. It's almost approximately 6 weeks now, with some blockers delaying it. We're in discussion with Midlands Connect, and once we have any updates, we'll come back to the board to report on that one. We have this strategic transport plan, phase 3, which is what we've just been deliberating, talking about. This is reporting as green, and thank you for signing that off. We've been working really hard to make sure the project doesn't slip, and this is reporting as green. The strategic rail phase 2 work is also reporting as green. We have the Chetmas Power work completed, as well as the Act of the Heart of West Line strategic outline business case is been produced as well. So this is reporting as green. James, we throw more light on this later on. We have the rural phase 2 work. This is reporting as green. Also, work is ongoing where with Peninsula Transport. This is a joint strategy. We had the face-to-face stakeholder event at Taunton around January time. It was a positive event with lots of feedback, and we had the workshop with engaging conversation. So this work is reporting as green so far. We have the phase 2 work. This is also reporting as green. Work is ongoing with the subgroups and the main group, the maritime, the aviation, road and rail subgroups. We had the forum around February time last month. It was really good participation there. We had almost 40 participants, well engaged and very informative. 2 days ago, on Monday, we had the main group meeting as well. That was another informative meeting. It was good, and we've been having lots of feedback on this forum. We've also agreed the year 2 program with Peninsula Transport, and we'll be taking on board those activities in next financial year. We have the electric vehicle work. This is also reporting as green. We had the study report that we brought to the board in December. That has now gone up to our website. It's there for people who want to go back and have a look at that study. We have the strategy work in the pipeline. We plan to do that in-house. Again, this is another one we're doing with Peninsula Transport, collaborative working, and there's also discussion ongoing to set up the Southwest EV vehicle forum where people can share learnings, and we have the local authorities involved in that one, and we can use sort of the learnings from that forum to kind of inform the strategy. We have the coach strategy phase 2 work. This is reporting as AMBER, although work is still actively progressed here. It's just reporting AMBER because we had sickness of a staff was sick, and some of the work, obviously we couldn't meet the target, so that's why we have the coach work reporting as AMBER. But we had the first coach forum around February time. That was another engaging meeting, so this work is progressing even though it's AMBER. We have the decarbonization policy playbook, DPP, which is now being renamed as the carbon assessment playbook. This work is reporting as green as well. Work is ongoing. Last month or 2 months ago, it was reporting as AMBER because of the new procurement framework that WECA introduced. But we have that sorted now, and this work is now reporting as green. We'll now go on to the updates. I don't know, James, Hannah, do you guys want to go through just brief updates of various work streams? Obviously, the STP, we've got that one. James, do you want to just update on the freight strategy just a little bit?
Probably not really to add much more than what you've just been saying, Menno. We've just got through the 6th round of subgroups and the main forum over the last couple of weeks. Some of the areas of work that we're currently doing on freight include some work going on bridge strikes, and in particular focusing on a bridge just out Salisbury, which gets hit about 10 times a year. The consultants are working with Wiltshire Council and I think National Highways as well on looking at ways to resolve or reduce the number of bridge strikes. There's going to be some work being undertaken on lorry parking. There's a lot of very good work done by National Highways Department for Transport on lorry parking on the strategic road network. This is looking beyond the strategic road network, picking up the major road network and trying to understand more about what lorry parking goes on and what's needed. We're also looking to do some work on freight awareness, and our consultants, ACOM, are producing a sort of package of material to go to the local authorities to really explain, I think, or to help people to understand more about how we should all be planning for freight. Freight tends to be something of a neglected aspect of a lot of transport planning. So it's very much about creating more awareness, and we're hoping this is going to be really successful, and that we can share it with the other STBs, and they can learn from our example. We've also now got to look forward to the coming financial year and continue to take forward those interventions, including we've got at the moment a backloading trial going on. This is where operators are matched up with a return load or an outward load. One of the key facts that came out of the freight strategy work was that over 20% of lorry movements in the southwest, and just should stress that it's a joint freight strategy with the Peninsula, 20% of freight movements in the southwest, they're running empty. So if you can put an empty load, fill it up with something going back or coming out, so much the better. And we've got a very small trial going on here where Peninsula and the Western Gateway, we're we're encouraging operators to join this scheme run by a company called Transport Exchange, which runs a whole very sophisticated software package matching loads up. Again, I think as an STB, we're in the Peninsula, we're leading on this in terms of the other STBs, so they're looking very closely at what we're doing. So there's plenty going on freight and plenty more to come. So that's probably far too much detail to provide at this point, but happy to make that nice and for a future board meeting, Chair, and tell you all about it in more detail.
Excellent.
I might give brief, if there's time, brief bit of detail.
Yes,
on
there is
pension
time.
cycling, that both
There is
announced that
time.
in this meeting. Yes, unfortunately they're both amber, partly as a result of me being a key author of the STPs, having to sideline some other areas of work. However, things have been going on them, and just touching on the coach strategy and some of this speaks to your question earlier, David. We, as Mena said, we convened the first meeting of a freight forum in February, so that's comprising operators, local authority officers, industry and passenger representatives. There were 33 attendees at the peak, the first meeting, which was great, and that provides us, as that starts to kind of grow and gain momentum, that's where we're hoping to build the platform for that ongoing discussion. And because there are officers from the periphery, local authorities and STBs attending as well, to kind of really pick up those cross-boundary issues and end-to-end journeys a bit better. And we've also just about started work on the assessment of the first of the 3 strategic coach routes that were highlighted in the original strategy. So that's the route broadly from Cheltenham to Bristol Airport. The consultants have worked up different permutations of routes that could be taken and are evaluating the value of those routes in comparison with road and with rail to look at where we can serve communities and pick up markets most effectively to cater for that increased movement. And that also links into the new coach interchange facility that's being built at Bristol Airport, and several of these permutations go through Earls Court and other facilities in there. So that's how we're trying to bring those things together through that initial study. The other 2 routes in the strategy, they do go down to the south coast to Bournemouth and the other places that you've mentioned, and the hope is that if the funding is available, that we'll be able to take those forward in the next financial year, but we're concentrating on the first one to start with. Cycling has been progressing to some degree, but the key officer at Sustrans has been on a sabbatical for 6 weeks, so that's another reason it hasn't progressed past that. But he's back now, so we had a discussion about how to take that forward, and I'm hoping that will pick up and commence pretty soon. Our carbon tool, that's due for delivery by the end of May, so in June we'll be looking to hold workshops with each of the local authority officers to understand how they can use it for testing both kind of top-down policies and bottom-up interventions, how that kind of impacts on the decarbonisation trajectory for the region and for a local area. It goes down to MSOA level, so allows you to implement things over. Well, it's a small geography in an urban area. It's a relatively large geography in a rural area, but still allows for a certain fineness of gradation that wasn't available in the first iteration of our carbon tool. So I'm hoping to be able to bring information on that to the June board, and also we'll be contacting officers through the senior and transport officers groups to get people lined up for that training in due course.
Right. Very good. Any questions? Comments? Well, thank you very much for all the hard work that's going in. Much appreciated. Do we have some finances? There's nothing much really to. Mena, do you want to look at finances?
Yeah.
I don't think we need to go in all detail. We know it's not brilliant until Ross provides us with the wherewithal.
Yeah, it was good for us to know that we got the first installment of payment from DFT. That was around January time, so we're paid 345k plus, and the second installment of 259k plus is going to be made in March. Fingers crossed. we're meeting with the FT sometime this month to have that discussion and see how the fund is going to go out. What we have now left in our budget is around 151k. After meeting with the FT, they advised us to get a risk contingency report, and we'll just have to put like a subtotal amount there just in case of emergency or something like that. So we do have that pot of 100k untouched, which is now coming down. Our final total is now coming up to 51k minus the outstanding payment from the local authority. So we have that to be maybe 31k thereabout. So we've been doing some reallocation of the budget. We have some committed funds as well. Hopefully we can get all the work done with the momentum, keep the momentum going on, and we can have everything invoiced for the total amount to be used. So yeah, nothing much to update, rather than we're just hoping for to get the announcement soon for confirmation of the next year financial projects to be rolled out.
Thanks, Mena. Forward decision plan. Do we want to look over that, James, and just
yeah, that's
Mena will
cover
want to do that as well.
That's me again. So we brought this to the December board, and we had some of our work programs to be presented in this meeting in March. Fortunately, with the focus on STP, we've not been able to do that. So we've now also deferred those ones to June and September board. Hopefully, we are able to come, with big updates on the work packages, because we are aware that we are overdue on reporting. So what we have now done is the SCP we brought for submission here in this board. We have the real work as well. This is now be deferred to June board. The rural mobility as well. This will be deferred to June board. Coach freight regional excellence. This will be deferred to June board, which is going to make our agenda really packed full. But we need to give updates on those, because work has actually been going on simultaneously with the SDP. So we really want to give those updates, no matter how short the time may be, so that we get those cleared off. So that's the proposal for the June board, and I appreciate we've not been able to come to this board with updates, like I said. So that's where we are with the forward decision plan. Really.
Right, thanks. So by the June board, we will have clarity regarding finance. We'll have got past the flurry of work around the STP, so we'll be able to kind of re-baseline the other things with the finance in mind. And of course, we'll have elections as well, so it would be quite a big thing, the June meeting, but hopefully from then on we'll have a little more stability. Any questions regarding, is that Chris, your hand down there?
A question. Presumably the later stages of this need revision might have today's decision about the STP. They're still talking about consultation basis for the STP, and we're now moving into a different phase.
Yeah,
But the other question I wanted to ask, I worry, I do this with my own to-do list, but I didn't do what I meant to do them, so I put them into the next lot, and suddenly they become a car crash. And is it realistic to have all these things reporting in June, or actually should we be being a bit more realistic between meetings and asking you to actually get a phasing that is realistic? Otherwise, I'll bring a sleeping bag in June.
I think it's the difference between reporting and updating.
Yeah.
I think June we need to look to update and re-baseline where we're at. Reporting will suggest that the outcomes would come through, and obviously that's not going to happen in all the cases, is it? So.
One final question: could somebody tell me what the next steps are for Cheltenham Spa? Because I thought, from where James and I were this morning, I thought they were about to be.
James is looking excited, so he obviously got an answer here.
This is just a reminder. This is, and I think Matt mentioned it earlier on. This is a piece of work looking at a south-facing bay platform at Cheltenham Spa station. which
not whole accessibility stuff.
not the accessibility stuff. No, this is just about the bay platform, providing extra capacity at the station. Western Gateway's been funding some feasibility work on that. That has actually got to the point where it's revealed that yes, it's a very good scheme to have. It has benefits, but also it's revealed that there are implications elsewhere in the network, particularly around Gloucester Station. There are many issues around Gloucester which need to be resolved, and also further north at Abbotswood Junction. So it's the work on Chatswell has more or less paused at this particular point. But yes, what do we do next with it? And I think this is where we just need to reflect on the work that's been done to date. Network Rail, we're going to be just doing a little bit more exploring with Transport for Wales about their services coming in from South Wales, their aspirations for more services, and the benefits that would possibly bring to the Bay platform. So whilst we pause the work for now, I think back in June we need to make a decision on where we go with Cheltenham Spa next. And actually probably should have put down there as well, the Heart of Wessex line work as well. We will be coming to a point where the board needs to decide where we want to go next with the Heart of Wessex line. And Jamie mentioned, the strategic outline business case is almost there. We have a draft version of it. It's not complete, but when we've got that revised version, that will give us a very strong steer as to where we could potentially go at the next board.
Listening to that, this organisation is maturing to a rate of knots. Yeah, and it's great to see it moving forward. Is it yet ready to start having milestone points on all of these projects, so that we actually know what the milestones are, so we know which bits are going to come back to us at which points of the narrative, rather than just having a forward plan of when we're going to have decisions, but actually have milestones within the project plans?
I think, yeah, I think that's an aspiration, isn't it, really? We've been through a rough period.
And we're coming out of it now. We might
well, I hope so. I mean, we need a new chair, obviously, so it's for us as members to decide whether we're coming out of it and going into a new dawn. Because, if we can all manage to find the time within our kind of portfolio, local authority work to make this really move forward more quickly, then that would be great, but we all know what it's like at the moment.
We might even be maturing enough to, remember we were talking about an independent board chair, once we felt we were ready, and we might be getting ready.
That'd be great, and the funding for that, were we looking at somebody, I've forgotten, was it pro bono? Couldn't be, surely would it?
We were looking to follow the model used by Midlands Connect, where they don't pay their independent chair. Transport for the North do, but I think the advice from, and if Ross is still on, he may be able to clarify this, the advice we had previously received was not to go down the paid independent chair. They do it for the pride of working for the region.
That's understandable, but they need to work hard.
Yes.
So, I mean, everyone's like it, there's pride that only take you so far.
Yeah, I think there'll be cover expenses.
Yeah, okay.
Can I just flag up on the milestones? And Mena did have a hand up as well. Mena has taken us considerably far forward on our programme and project management.
Yeah, we do have our milestone register. I think the reason why we've all been actually updating on milestones is because most times we run out of time for the board meeting. But we're happy to incorporate that in. We can do that. We've been trying to track all the milestones which we now use for our program updates. But we're happy to, update on the milestones.
Yes. Oh, and we've got somebody up here.
I didn't know if Ross was going to say
Ross,
something.
were you going to speak?
His microphone came.
Sorry, I was just conscious that there's a conversation. I think. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Sorry.
Yes, we can
yeah,
hear
just on the chair's point. We've tended to favour sort of non-remunerated positions as preference. We've had that in other STBs, and it works very well. You get people who are it's tended to produce people who are very focused on the contribution they can make and so you can still get very good people without it. So that has been our preference.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll look to do that.
Have we done a job description yet?
We've got hold of the Transport for East's approach to it, and we're hoping to sort of cut and paste from that, and also a mixture of the Midlands Connect one as well. But it's still very early stages yet on taking it forward, and we are going to need a list of possible candidates. So can I just ask, Chair, if anyone has got any possible people in mind, could they let us know, because we will need to draw up a short list.
Saying what's the job description?
Yes, I was going to say, we would really
Yeah.
love that job description first.
Yeah, we will. When we've got a job description, we'll circulate it to the board and welcome any suggestions for who's going to be the independent chair. And it will be for the board itself to decide who is going to be the independent chair. I should stress that.
Excellent. Yes.
Chair, I just want to also stress at this moment, going back a few meetings ago, we also assigned kind of members for transport projects. I
Yes,
think
indeed.
there's a couple where there are lead members are vacant on those, and perhaps maybe that may be something where members can actually come and report the key milestones at the board meeting, just to kind of keep everybody updated.
Absolutely. Thank you. A reminder, as we had in the pre-meeting, if members of the board wish to contribute to particular work streams, please don't hold back.
Yes, just to keep milestone registered. So we do have an active one ongoing. It's just that we don't have time to report on them. But next board meeting, we should be coming to report on key milestones if we have the time.
Even if it's in an appendix, but we don't necessarily go through, but it's
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes, I think it's a fair point.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
I think that concludes our business.